Welcome, dear listeners, to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries, the place where legends breathe, where shadows linger just a moment longer, and where the boundaries between history and haunting possibility blur into silence. Tonight, we sail back in time to the windswept shores of North Carolina, to a small settlement that vanished without a trace, a place etched into American folklore, whispered about in textbooks and fireside tales alike. Tonight's mystery is one of the oldest and perhaps the most unsettling in the story of the New World, the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Let us begin with a setting. It is the year 1587. England is not yet the global power it would become, but its eyes are already on the horizon. The dream is expansion, colonies, footholds in the New World that might rival Spain's mighty empire. Sir Walter Raleigh, ambitious and driven, secures a charter from Queen Elizabeth I to establish just such a colony. The first attempts are tentative, fragile things, threatened by hunger, storms, and tense relations with the indigenous peoples. But still, England presses forward, and in July of that year, more than 100 settlers, men, women, and children, make landfall on Roanoke Island. Imagine the scene: crude houses rising from the sandy soil, smoke curling into the humid air, the endless chorus of cicadas in the forests. Among those settlers was Eleanor Dare, daughter of Governor John White. She was heavily pregnant when she arrived, and in August she gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in the New World. For the colonists, she was a symbol of hope, proof that this place could become a true home, not just a desperate experiment. But beneath that hope lay shadows of doubt. Supplies ran low quickly. Relations with nearby native tribes were uneasy, sometimes hostile. The land was unfamiliar, its harvest unreliable. By the end of the year, Governor White returned to England, intending to gather resources and reinforcements. He promised his people he would return swiftly, bringing ships filled with food, tools, and fresh settlers to strengthen their fragile foothold. But the seas had other plans. England was soon engulfed in conflict with Spain, culminating in the threat of the mighty Spanish Armada. Every ship, every sailor, every resource was called to defend the homeland. John White begged to be allowed to return, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. His colony, his family, his daughter and granddaughter were left to fend for themselves, thousands of miles from home. 3 long years passed before White was finally able to set sail again. 3 years for the colony to endure hunger, storms, isolation, and uncertainty. When he finally returned in 1590, his heart must have pounded with hope and dread. He stepped ashore expecting laughter, relief, the embrace of loved ones long missed. Instead, he found silence. The houses stood empty, weathered by storms. Grass and weeds crept through the once cleared paths. Tools lay rusting, abandoned. The only sign of life was a single word carved into a post: CROATOAN. White searched desperately for his family. He searched for graves, for signs of struggle, for messages left behind. There were none. Not a single body, not a single bone. It was as though over 100 men, women, and children had simply vanished. The word CROATOAN referred to a nearby island, now called Hatteras, home to a friendly tribe of native people who had aided the settlers before. White believed perhaps his colonists had moved there, taken in by the tribe. But storms were brewing, and his ship's captain refused to risk further delay. White never searched CROATOAN Island. He never found his daughter, nor his granddaughter. He returned to England defeated, and he died without ever knowing what became of them. So began centuries of speculation. Some believed the settlers starved and died, their bones lost to the sandy soil. Others suggested they were killed by hostile tribes, their settlement wiped clean. Still others argued they had joined with local tribes, assimilating into their culture, their English identity dissolving with time. There are tantalizing clues, reports from later colonists who swore they saw fair-haired children among the tribes, legends of grey-eyed warriors, fragments of European tools found in native villages. But proof has always slipped through our fingers. There are darker theories too. Some whisper that something unnatural stalked the colony, that the forests themselves, deep and old, claimed them. In modern retellings, the lost colony has been folded into tales of curses, of vengeful spirits, of the land rejecting foreign invaders. In one thread of folklore, Virginia Dare herself becomes a ghostly figure, forever wandering the island, searching for a home she never truly had. Archaeologists have searched for answers for centuries. In the 20th century, excavations uncovered hints of English pottery on Hatteras Island, fueling the idea that the settlers indeed moved and blended with the Croatan people. More recently, in 2015, researchers used advanced imaging to uncover hidden markings on John White's original map of Virginia. Beneath the paper, invisible to the naked eye, lay the outline of a fort, marked with a small blue and red symbol, not far from Roanoke. Was this where the colonists had gone? Had White known more than he told? Even now, new digs continue. Pieces of broken ceramics, rusty metal, small fragments of life surface from the soil, but none of them have ever given us the one thing we seek most: certainty. Perhaps that is why the story endures, because there is no ending written, because 100 souls walked into history and were swallowed by silence. The lost colony is not just a historical question, it is a mirror of human fragility, the hunger for survival, the cruelty of distance and delay, the way hope can turn quietly into despair. When you stand on Roanoke Island today, the air still carries a hush. Tourists wander the site, reading plaques, imagining the lives that once filled those wooden houses. But in the spaces between the words, in the silence that stretches across the centuries, the colony remains lost, not just in body, but in spirit. A wound in history, forever unhealed. And so we close tonight's tale, not with answers, but with questions. What became of Virginia Dare, the first child of the New World? Did she live among the Croatan, grow old and vanish into a story passed by word of mouth? Or did she, and all the others, fall quietly into the earth, their voices buried forever? We cannot know. Perhaps we are not meant to. Thank you for joining me here at Bedtime Myths and Mysteries. If you found yourself drawn into the silence of Roanoke tonight, do consider subscribing so you never miss another journey into the mysteries that haunt us. Until next time, I wish you rest, and perhaps dreams filled with answers that history has denied.